What's up, nerds? Welcome back. Today I'm talking about Radiant Black number 8, a story that has thrown me for so many damn loops I feel like I've been manhandled by Captain Boomerang. Alright, so like I said, this book has taken so many twists and turns, it's hard to kind of keep up, but it's actually been entertaining. It was a slow burn at first, as we were like kind of getting to know our first protagonist, Nathan, and then all of a sudden he died, and ever since then they kind of like dialed up the speed up to 1,000, and we've just kind of been going at that pace. So we're starting out with this where it says this is before, so this is like a flashback. And if you remember right now, we got introduced to a whole spectrum of colors, and then there was also this other one who showed up who appears to be like hunting them for some reason, but we don't know particularly why yet. And so that's who we're seeing here, is that like hooded figure who apparently was in some sort of crash or attack or something. And so we can see like they have the close up on the cracked helmet as life comes back. And so he flies back to his ship. He kind of like manages to drift his way back to the ship and then uses that to take off. So, I mean, presumably that brings us back to now. And that brings us to these two, Marshall, and I still don't know her name, the pink one. So they showed up in Moscow, Russia, and because she used her powers to teleport them from deep space to here, and they thought they were back home in America, and only to come to find out, no, they're in Russia. So he's kind of asking her, like, why did you send us to Moscow? Like, why would you send us to Moscow? And she's like, I don't know. He says, we need to get out of here. But he turns around to see that she starts throwing up, and they're starting to attract a crowd because of the way that they're dressed and the way that they just showed up. So he was like, okay, you know what? We need to get out of here right now. So he starts telling her to, like, power up so we can take off. But she tells him, like, no, I can't do it. Like, I cannot possibly use my powers right now. And then he's like, okay, I got it. We go normal then, which means quick change, yeah? So they use that to kind of like turn off their suits or whatever, and then they kind of just walk off. I'm assuming that everybody was just like, oh, okay, never mind. You gotta love those Russians. Anyway, so he says, hey, you know what they say? Every blue moon, a blind squirrel's right twice a day. I hate you so much, Kyle Higgins, because like he puts stuff like that in there, and it's like the type of way that I would talk. I wouldn't say that particularly, but I do say something similar when I'm like, when I refer to someone who's not dumb, there are those three different phrases, not the sharpest knife in the drawer, not the brightest crayon in the box, and not the brightest light bulb in the box. I usually put all three together and say that someone's not the sharpest light bulb in the crayon box. And that's why I'm saying, like, Kyle Higgins does stuff like that too with the writing, and I'm like, I hate you because I talk the same way. This is not okay. But anyway, we go back over to, if you remember, the pink one, the red one and the yellow one captured this like hooded figure who's been hunting them and decided, okay, we're going to interrogate him. So we can see where they have him kind of like locked up right now. Or at least that's what they think. And they're trying to ask questions saying like, you're out over your skis, which is what the yellow one said. And then he says, the respectful thing would be to immolate as atonement for your stupidity, sinking with that which you do not understand. What do you hope to accomplish by drawing out your deaths? So the yellow one's like, whether we came to these radiants by ways that you approve of or not, we do have them. We deserve to know what the hell we've gotten ourselves into. And so he says, deserve. What do you know about what you deserve? You've marked your world, your species will die. There is much you deserve. And then the red one's like, who are you? Where did all this come from? And it says, don't worry, soon it won't matter. You'll be dead. Thank you for the charge, and then just kind of like teleports out or whatever. So that's when they start getting the indication that actually he's able to feed off of their powers, off of their energy to recharge himself or whatever. But we go back over to Marshall as at first I wasn't sure, like, what is it he's doing? He's walking through this cafe to like steal some people's coffee. Or I guess would that be an espresso or a cappuccino? So it's in like the little cups. Anyway, so he comes back out, and this I did find kind of weird just from the way that the art is drawn, because as you can see, he's walking to her, and it's raining outside, but the way that he's carrying the cups in his hand, like he's just carrying them like this. So they're probably just getting full of water right now. Like, I could understand he's also carrying like a jacket. I could understand if he was like carrying that over the cup so that they're not having water fall into, but he's literally just carrying them like this, like up front, like up, whatever, like, right side up, there you go. And then he's also just allowing like water to fall into them. So I don't know how that works. But anyway, he gets over to her and he like hands her the jacket and then hands her the coffee as well. And like I said, you can see where it's still like raining, but they're like under a covering, so it's not hitting them now. But it was getting in their coffee before. Anyway, so he says, I tried to wait for somebody who used sugar, but then I realized I don't know anything about Russia. Do they use sugar? And she just says, probably. So they both take a sip, and apparently it was disgusting. He's like, oh, yuck. Should have waited for the couple with the cool hats. And she's like, dude, you always wait for the couple. You always wait on the cool hats. Even you got to know that. So he's like, all right, next time you can steal the coffee. But she says, I've got like the perfect power for it. He's like, and yet? She says, no, I appreciate it. I just need, I don't know. He's like, a break, I get it, though not exactly the most convenient timing. She's like, look, it's not like a panic thing. Things just build, and then there's so much, and I can't. And he's like, whoa, hey, it's all good. I meant it. I get it. Probably more than you think. I'm really not an asshole, which is definitely the way to convince somebody of that. So they kind of go on with their little heartfelt moment. And then she starts to ask him, like, so that guy in the hospital, but then they get interrupted by these Russians, the ones that he stole the coffee from. And the dude's coming up and saying, like, you stole our coffee right off our table? Is something very wrong with you? And the girl's like, yeah, it's really weird. So Marshall turns to her and he's like, are you feeling better? She's like, yeah. So he's like, okay, perfect. So they power up and they're getting ready to get out of there because he says, besides, it's high time we interrupt the wooded weekend getaway. So that's when we come back over to the other two, because that dude like busted out of the way that they were holding him and has now decided, now I'm going to beat y'all's asses. So he starts doing that pretty much handily. Like they have pretty much no defense against him. And then he comes up and stabs the red one from behind once. And so she starts trying to like absorb stuff because it says survival mode, absorb to repair, try to stop the loss of fluid. Clever, but too advanced. So he stabs her again and she's like, okay, you know what? Maybe I just need to absorb something stronger. So she grabs onto his sword and starts absorbing that and manages to like make the body armor and everything. And then punches the shit out of him. So he goes flying and everything. And then we could see where he starts speaking in that alien language or whatever, because he had placed some sort of device on the yellow one. So the red one comes up and tears it off, and we can see where he's starting to use his power. But before he can, the mysterious one just uses some sort of power that's on its like suit or whatever to cause this gigantic explosion that doesn't actually kill them, but it does serve as, you know, creating like a very big crater, it looks like. And then at the same time, like, it's a distraction, so they're able to get away. But I'm assuming like right after it happened, the pink one teleports her and Marshall in. So they come in, they're like, yo, what the hell happened? And this one, the yellow one, pink one calls him Wendell. So the yellow one is called Wendell. And then he says he charges his tech from us. She's like, what? He says, we're powering him. So he shows up and is like a reductive understanding of the old ways and the new. You tempt fate. You dance amongst world enders in the shadow of Armageddon, all the while unknowing of the extent to which you are a mistake, an improbable accident, a doom to your planet. Now, no more running until we fix your mistake. So Marshall coming up, he's like, if that's how it's got to be, then stop pussyfooting around and let's go, you cosmic slash. He just says, I am 001, marked for death by, and then alien language again. It says, now in service to the new way. And Marshall just finishes it by saying, and I'm going to finish your ex if it's the last goddamn thing I do. And all of a sudden, he gets cut off by this gigantic robot hand that comes out of his chest. And then like it just shoots right back in after it like grabs the hooded one. And then that causes Marshall to kind of like be knocked to his knees and shit. So the pink one is just like, what the fuck was that? And he's just like, I have no idea. And then they were asking, well, the pink one asked the red one, like, weren't you bleeding? She's like, I was. So as we can see, the suit pretty much fixed her. And then Wendell comes up and is like, do you have any idea what you just did? He says, I didn't do anything. A giant goddamn robot stuck his arm out of my chest. He's been in there the whole time? So he's asking, like, well, Wendell asks him, like, can you reach it? But he says, I'm trying, but the line's one way. So Wendell's just like, okay, well, then this might be over. The immediate threat, at least. I say we go home, lie low, don't draw any more attention than we have to. See if we can get the robots to give us some more answers. I'd really like to know what, you know, what it said in alien language or whatever. So this is where Marshall started to get back into, because they're saying, like, okay, is that it? But Marshall's like, actually, there's something else that I was kind of dealing with. But then Wendell decides, no, you need to calm the hell down. and gives him this little speech where he says, all right, we're knocking this off right now. You two have problems? You got baggage? That sucks. It's also a part of life. And now for you, so is a permanent link to a goddamn black hole. And before the whole thing about the black hole or whatever, I do have to say that's pretty much just life experience. I mean, life advice you can take with you everywhere. Like, you're always going to have a problem with someone. You're always going to have baggage with somebody. And it's just part of life. You live and you learn and then you move on. Leave that shit in the past. You know what I mean? But anyway, he says, and in case you didn't hear the gentleman with the swords, there's some far bigger fish out there that may also want us dead. So he's just like, we know, we teleported into a robot war. But Wendell's just like, I don't know what that means. But if our world's going to die, I'm not going to be the reason. So he goes over, offers a helping hand to Marshall and like helps him up. And Marshall's just saying, like, fine for now. So the pink one's like, if it means getting out of here, I'll take it. Because I don't know about you, but I can't wait to get back to something more normal. And then we go over to this. I don't know where exactly this is, but we can see this group of people who are coming on what looks to be some sort of, like, bunker or armory or whatever. And so they're coming up. And one of them, I'm assuming, at least works for the feds or something, because he's standing there in a suit and tie. So usually that means, like, you know, men in black type of thing, like working for the government, clandestine operations. So one of these dudes is saying, like, at some point you got to tell us how you actually heard about this. And he says, I did tell you, people. So they're like, cryptic, how we doing, Jace? And so he's saying, like, you know, oh yeah, we've got his number now. I think it's just about time for somebody to open wide. So he opens it up and they walk in to see, like I said, it kind of looks like an armory. These kind of look like a bunch of weapons and guns and shit. So I don't really know what we're going to get from that, but this guy is saying, looks like we're in business. So I don't know if they're like arms dealers or whatever, but now they also have this alien technology, this alien weaponry or whatever. But that's where we leave off on this particular issue. So like I said, this particular series, I didn't know what to expect from it at first. I've mentioned this a few times. Like, it was so heavily hyped before it came out that, like, Image was coming out with an all-new superhero series and everything, which I was like, okay. Usually when they're hyping something, I try not to get too excited about it because you never really know how much of that is just the marketing or whatever. So when I saw it come out, I was like, all right, I'll pick it up. I'll see what it's about. And then I read the first few issues. It didn't really impress all that much, but then I was starting to kind of get something out of like the life lessons it seemed to trying to be impart to its audience. I was like, all right, you know, nothing wrong with that. But then it took that complete left turn, and ever since then, we have not turned back right since then. I'm not saying this isn't all right, but you know what I mean. It's just, it wasn't what I expected from this story, not even remotely, and I have no idea where it's going to continue to go, because it seems like at this point you could bring in just about anything and I would almost accept it, but we'll see where it's going to go from here. I'm actually excited to see where it goes. Like I said, I've mentioned before, like, I do like Kyle Higgins' writing. I didn't do a review because he also wrote that new Darkhawk story. I had it somewhere around here, but that was also a really good story. And that's why I'm saying, like, I do enjoy Kyle Higgins' writing. So I don't know where exactly this is going to go, but I'm excited to see where it does end up. But I think it showed in here, yeah, where it shows this part at the end, next issue, and we can see Marshall, and he appears to be walking next to Nathan. So I don't know if, like, Nathan dies and he speaks to him as his mind is dying or something. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see in the next issue. I'm hoping that does actually happen in the next issue. That's not just some sort of like bait and switch, but I guess we'll have to wait and find out. But yeah, if anybody out there is still keeping up with this series, if you read this particular issue, do feel free to let me know what you think about it, where you might possibly see this going, because I have not really seen any of these things coming just as of yet. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for me on this review. So yes, if you have any thoughts on this, definitely feel free to share those with me down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the video, then definitely like the video, subscribe, and make sure you are still subscribed. Share it if you would like to do that. I always appreciate it. But if you're done here, then go and read a book, possibly this one. And if not, then I'll see you on my next video.